Hello and welcome to Irish Science Fiction. You are about to listen to, if you hang round, Chapter 53 from the 56 chapters of Nancy Goodaim, the Space Ranger. So, a hen, it's a da, it's a tree, and away we go. If you have ever piloted a Jupiterian colump from a seaside settlement known as Claspabron on the edge of the Sea of Uncertainty towards a spine of mountains bisected by the Hanumphody route, then you probably know the Hanumphody route leads to an area of upland known as the Tarvanty Grontal, and that the upland extends northwest to the Hoblagranker Convergence, which is one of the most important, if not the most important, access routes to Hoblagranker, also known as Sosman City. If, like European Space Agency mission specialist Nancy Goodaim McGinley, you've never made that journey before, then the first time can be tricky. Because you'd have no idea that the Hanumphody route is bordered by several large, damp, misty, vegetation-covered valleys, which is fine if you travel in daylight, but the cool air of the evening can cause some of the mist to rise and spend the night floating about doing nothing in the sky above the route. And a bored upper-altitude mist will always look to have a nose around in any passing aircraft, which, even at the best of times, can be disconcerting to the pilot. I don't want to be telling you your business, but the back wall of this thing is broken wide open, and it's very hard for something like me to resist the temptation to float on in and take a look around. Nancy could not see where the voice came from. She could not see anything. Only a thick, white, all-encompassing mist that blocked the view in all directions and had now come to fill the interior of the cabin she had been operating the colump from. Nancy instinctively unholstered her crossbow and loaded a bolt, and left it carefully by her side. "And now there's no need for that," came the voice. "I was just giving you a bit of advice. You know, some of the other mists are a lot more trouble. I normally try to stay away from the eating, breathing creatures and their lives. And anyway, you'll need that weapon if you want to save your fellow bipeds." "Who are you?" asked Nancy. "I am the Mist of Ballyriss. Pleased to meet you. It's great to have a bit of company up here. I don't want to be bad-mouthing other mists, but the Mr. Howdra is a bit of a dose." "What do you want with me? I need to return a book to the wizard Bork Zungemeyer." Nancy's words echoed into silence. The mist was damp and cold. She could see the control levers of the colump next to where she was sitting, but a thick, cold haze covered everything else. "Wait hold on. Are you friendly with the Mist of Howdra?" "No," replied Nancy quietly. "If you do meet that mist, don't say that I said it was a dose. Even though it's true, it is a dose. It's just, it'd be bad form for mist to be going about bad-mouthing other mists to the animals. I mean, there's no specific rule about it in the Book of Wonderland, as far as I know anyway. But just, say nothing. It'd be like if I said those 3 bipeds that wandered back into the Eclontian Range were as dumb as a Spontalager. It might offend you. Even if it's true. And it is true. One of them was already in there this morning. I remember him well, clomping around in a brightly coloured suit for all the creatures to see. Barely escaped with his life. But yet he landed back once more for Bongerla knows what. You don't know him, do you? Sorry, what am I saying? Every biped doesn't know every other biped. There's too many of ye, isn't there? Nancy gripped the control levers. She thought about keeping the craft steady and true, and on a path for the Umperdom chamber nestled in the third emulsified layer of Hoblagranker. "I suppose," she muttered. "Yeah, that's a good suppose. It's nice to have some smart company for a change. The Mist of Howdra tells the same stories over and over and over. Can you imagine what that's like to listen to?" No," muttered Nancy. "All right, sorry. I forget ye two never met. How would ye have? I've been floating above Hanumphody for eons, and it never mentioned you. What did you say your name was?" "Nancy McGinley of the European Space Agency on Earth." "Right. If you do end up bumping into the Mr. Howdra, whatever you do, don't mention Shan Lava Feasting. It was once there. Once, according to itself, and you'll never hear the end of it. On and on it'll go about Shan Lava Feasting, as if you could care less. If I didn't know better, I'd say it's boasting when it starts talking about Shan Lava Feasting. In fact, now that I say it out loud, that's exactly what it is. Boasting. Blah, blah, blah. Shan Lava Feasting. I tell you what, if it's so nice there, then it should have stayed there, instead of floating back here above Hanumphody to rabbit on for all eternity about that one visit. Are you going to save your fellow bipeds or not? Now, I don't want to be telling you your business, but if it was me, and there were Garmstonglers, Mulbound Frolicles, and Marmsticles about to supper on another mist, I'd be right along to help. Maybe not if it was the Mr. Howdra. Actually, forget that. I would. Only probably not as quickly as I would if it was any other mist that was going to be eaten by Garmstonglers, Mulbound Frolicers and Marmsticles. Although, do you know what? That'd be physically impossible, for those things to eat a mist. So that was probably a bad comparison. Thanks for not interrupting. I hate it when the Mr. Howder does that. Like, I know what I was saying wasn't exactly correct, but it was only an example. The important part was to express to you that 3 bipeds are wandering below in the Atlantean Range and are about to get scoffed up by the local fauna very shortly. They haven't a hope. One of them is bellowing at the top of his voice, and another is in a brightly, "Hey, look at me" suit. And you will surely realise that death would be a big problem because you're mortal and a biped and a lot smarter than anything I've been chatting to lately. And you didn't make a fuss over the bad example I made. The Mr. Howder would have been nitpicking away over that. But not you. Fair play. It's great to chat to someone smart for a change. Nancy moved the levers, but she was flying blind. A dense mist was all that filled her view. "Can you help me get to the third convulsified layer of Hobla Graniker? The part where the wizard Bork Zungermeyer lives? The, Omperdom chamber?" she asked. "Do you not want me to help you with your fellow bipeds?" Sorry, I said that wrong. You do not want me to help you with your fellow bipeds. No, wait, that was wrong too. You want me to help your fellow bipeds. Hang on, I have it now. You should want me to help out your fellow bipeds. No, that still sounds like a question. Of course you want to help out your fellow bipeds. That's what you lot do, isn't it? Bipeds. I mean, it is. Sure, isn't everything in the universe out to get ye? Finazers, garmstongles, marmstickles, sneaky finazers, cantabular glimps. Yeah, everything is out to harm ye bipeds. Sometimes ye even set out to harm each other. That's why your lot stick together, isn't it? Don't worry, I get it. I'd be the same way if I was a biped. Instead of being an immortal magical cloud that floats in and around Ballyriss for all time, chatting to the Mr. Howder about its visit to Shanlava Feistin. Well, listening to the Mr. Howder describe its visit to Shanlava Feistin. And, not talking to the fauna. We're not supposed to, It's forbidden by the Book of Wonderland, so don't tell anyone about it. Especially not the Mr. Howder. Wait, if you are chatting to it, then it'll only ask you not to tell me about it. Your conversation, that is. It'll probably be about Shanlava Feistin anyway, or whatever it is you might say. What were you saying to me? I asked could you get me to the third convulsified layer of Hobla Graniker, to the wizard Bork Zungermeyer. Oh right, yeah, that's right. Saving the 3 bipeds that just wandered into the Atlantean Range. One of them for a second time, I might add. Hang on, I'll guide you down to them. Nancy felt the cabin grow colder and something pressure her hands and the levers. She resisted. She could see no further than her hands and movement in any direction felt risky. Something told her to be sure to make her crossbow ready for firing. She reached down and lifted it carefully by her side. "Falabadong!" "What?" asked Nancy. "Go Falabadong! Hold the controls with both of your upper exterior appendages. Directive. If you want to save your fellow biped mortals, you can use your weapon when we land. Come on! Falabadong!" "I'm sorry, I don't know what that means." "You don't know what go Falabadong or directive means?" No, I don't. I'm not from round here." "Good for you. I better land you in so. Have that weapon of yours ready. The Atlantean Range are no place for a biped." What neither Nancy nor the Mist were to know was the word spoken to Bip, the Sheriff, and Noob 06351 shortly after the end of Chapter 51. They were, "Hello, my friends. What a smartly turned out bunch you are. And welcome back, you of the bright clothing. It is an honour to see you again." "Who is that?" asked the Sheriff. "Oh, a good question you ask. You are truly smart to ask such a thing. I can tell you are the leader of this group. Come, my good friend, walk into the mist so I can show you something amazing." Yes, I am the leader of the group," noted the Sheriff. The Sheriff, Noob 06351, and a Jupiterian rebel and founding member of the Hobla Graniker Defence League called Gumgulliger Unterwackle, but known as Bip to his friends, had just left Chapter 51 and a wooded area at the edge of low hills, walked across exposed rocky terrain, and were headed for a largely forgotten, mostly ignored and generally avoided part of Jupiter known as the Atlantean Range of Ballyriss. It would be Bip's second visit to the Atlantean Range that day. The first one had almost ended in his death, but Bip had suffered a dramatic and sudden loss of his memories and was leading the Sheriff and Noob 06351 back towards danger, for no other reason than it was in front of him and he was walking forward. They had almost reached the point where the terrain changed from the barren, open, rocky ground they were walking on to a misty, overgrown forest, when the strange voice had called out towards them from somewhere inside the mist-shrouded vegetation. "That sounds like a trick," said Noob 06351. "Quiet, you!" snapped the Sheriff. "I am the leader," he repeated. "Of course you are the leader, sir," echoed the voice. "You are tall and mighty and clever, and know how to rule others. I can tell by your voice, which is why it would be an honour to show this special thing to somebody of your great standing. Come, bring your friends into the mist. Don't, said Noob 06351. There's something wrong here. Why would it want us to walk into the mist? Why doesn't it walk out here to us? Because it thinks we're special. Well, it thinks I'm special. You two are followers, explained the sheriff. What are ye all talking about? Asked Bip. He stopped walking, dusted down his orange boiler suit, checked the edge of his axe, spat, and looked around curiously. He then resumed his slightly bewildered walk towards the mist. Wait, you, snapped the sheriff. Me first. I am your leader, so you must follow me. I don't mean that you are not important, Bip, or the other fella. A leader needs followers, so without followers, like you two, I wouldn't be a great leader. So in a way, you both have a purpose. The sheriff then strode past Bip and into the Eclantian Rains of Ballyriss. Good, hissed a voice from within the mist. Tell your friends to follow. Bip and Noob 06351 did, in a slow, begrudging sort of gait. They walked until they were next to the sheriff, surrounded on all sides by mist and shadows and barely visible damp vegetation. Bip held up his axe as if to throw it. He pointed the head of the axe towards the head of the sheriff, paused, turned and aimed it at Noob 06351, paused again, sidestepped around Noob 06351 and swung the axe widely into the mist. His swing was followed by a yelp of pain. Gibble jambers! No, frolickers! No, thingies! I forget what you call them, but there's lots of them! Everywhere! He yelled. Run the Perry! What happened next was a rapid, confused struggle of bone, metal and pain. The mist was all-encompassing, the vegetation was thick, and the snarls and howls of hungry creatures came from every direction. Bip's axe swung and flashed and made contact with flesh and fur and scales, and slashed and falumped and cracked the flesh and fur and scales, and creatures growled and yelped and snarled. Noob 06351 had yelled, I knew this was a trick! Made to run and fallen over. The sheriff had yelled, Fools! Why did you not warn me? And stood still. Bip had wielded his blunted Tamagaloading axe wildly and made contact with the forelimbs, ears, snouts, backbones and teeth of 2 garmstongles, a marmstickle, and grazed and slashed 3 stunned mullbound frolickers, whose appetite and instinct to kill abandoned them and left them dumbfounded at the experience of having a meal fight back and swing tempered metal towards their vital organs. Bip's furious axemanship bought himself, Noob 06351, and the sheriff time. Valuable time. Time enough for the mist of Ballyriss to guide European Space Agency Nancy Goodaim McGinley and the Colump down into the Eclantian Rains and onto the ground next to his fight for survival. The mist had intended to do this quietly, but Bip, in his hyper-alert and agitated state, instantly spotted the Colump land and paused to look. And that moment of distraction allowed a garmstongle to land a headbutt. It had been a lucky strike for the garmstongle. It had, in its ferocious, angry, hungry mind, thought it would not survive being in close quarters to the lightning-fast, metal-wielding, brightly clothed biped, and was shocked to have actually stunned the biped. So much so that it stopped what it was doing, reared up on its hind legs, and howled to the other garmstongles and mullbound frolickers and marmsticles that had come to feed, as if to say, Whoa! Did you see that? That was pretty impressive by me, wasn't it? Bip fell backwards onto the ground, unconscious. Right, noted the sheriff, grabbing Noob 06351 by the shoulder and lifting him up in an attempt to use Noob 06351 as a shield from the snarling, howling, confused mass of hungry creatures. He stepped backwards and made contact with something large and solid. It's up to you and me now, lad! That other fella is out for the count. He did well, that fella. But now it is up to you and me to do the fighting. And we will fight on. Our backs to the wall. Or whatever this is. Whatever this is was the side window of a Colump, where inside Nancy had stood up, crossbow in hand, and was pacing towards the mist-shrouded broken rear wall of the cabin. Move fast! Hissed the mist to Nancy. And remember, say nothing about me helping you to the creatures down there. The mist of Howdra would never let me live it down, and it'd kill me to have to listen to him gloat for all eternity. Nancy exited the broken rear of the Colump and into the Eclantian Rains. It was dark and damp and murky, but somehow the mist cleared just enough for her to spot the unconscious Bip and the hungry ball of deadly creatures poised to eat him. Her targets moved at pace, but she fired off several bolts in rapid succession. They found homes inside the hearts and minds of 2 garmstongles, a marmstickle, and 3 mullbound frolickers, and caused all the other Eclantian creatures to rethink their supper, slink back quietly, and regroup at distance. Nancy ran over and crouched next to Bip. Are you okay? She asked. Who's asking? The sheriff walked over to where Nancy was crouching. "Well done! Good to see you again," he noted. "I've become an even more important person since we last met," he added. "We need to leave here," said Nancy. "Those creatures will surely be back, and I've only one bolt left." The mist partially lifted. Nancy muttered the word "thanks," which was followed by an echo of "shh, say nothing." Nancy gestured to the broken rear cabin wall of the Colump and down at Bip. Noob 06351 walked over and helped her lift Bip in. The sheriff had already stepped inside the Colump. "Right," he said. "Everyone do whatever is needed to take us away from this place. It was a stupid idea for you to have suggested we follow that voice into the mist, lad. I might have to demote you. Not you, Nancy, of the European Space Agency. You did adequate work, and I have noted it. So don't be surprised if you find yourself with a good position in the new rulership of this planet." Nancy ignored the sheriff. She sat at the controls of the Colump, placed her crossbow by her side, and moved the levers. The Colump rose, and rose, and rose, until the mist began to clear and a multicoloured patchwork of landforms became visible. I think we need to go this way," she muttered, absent-mindedly. Her hands moved the levers controlling the Colump, and it gently turned, and the spine of a distant mountain range became visible through the front window. "What's happening? What are ye lot doing in my house?" "Bip is awake," said Noob 06351. "Who are you on about?" asked Bip. Nancy turned to see Bip sitting upright, still clinging to his axe and staring confusedly between herself, Noob 06351, the sheriff, and the broken rear wall of the cabin. "What have ye done to my house?" he asked. "Tell him to rest," said Nancy. "He's taken a blow to the head." "He was like that before the creatures attacked us," explained Noob 06351. "He drank from the memory trap of Hullaba Flubbert." "Who did that?" asked Bart. "You," explained Noob 06351. "What did he do?" asked Nancy. "He drank from the memory trap of Hullaba Flubbert," repeated Noob 06351. "What?" asked Nancy. "My underling is explaining something to you, Nancy, and you would do well to listen," noted the sheriff. "He drank from the memory trap of Hullaba Flubbert," repeated Noob 06351 for a third time. "Explain better, boy," snapped the sheriff. "He lost his memory back in chapter 49, explained Noob 06351. "Hey, I remember you. You're called Nancy, from the European Space Agency, on planet Earth," said Bip towards Nancy. "Though he may be getting his memory back," added Noob 06351. "I remember now," said Bip. He stood up and looked around. He looked out the broken rear wall of the cabin and down at the Jupiterian landscape far below. Bip then turned to the sheriff and nodded. He turned to Noob 06351 and nodded. And finally over towards Nancy. "Let me give you all a bit of advice, folk," he said. "I don't need advice," said the sheriff. "What is it?" asked Noob 06351. "Never go see the travelling show about the Dragon Blardan." "Why?" asked Noob 06351. "Because it's a big ball of shite," explained Bip. And that was it for the 9th day of the first crewed human expedition to another planet. 2 dead Garmstongles, 1 dead Marmsticle, 3 dead Mullbound Frolickers, a crossbow, a forgetful founding member of the Hobblegraniger Defence League, a rookie former tunnel-digging noob, an ambitious Martian sheriff, Sosman Borkstapel, the Mist of Ballyriss, a crossbow, an underground army of sorts, and the last remaining copy of the Book of Bongerlon, sopping wet inside the damaged cabin of a Colump, en route to the Tarbanti Grontal and the Omperdon Chamber in the 3rd Commulsified layer of Hobblegraniker on Jupiter. Mila Buikas Gok Denya, thank you for listening. If you listened, there's 3 more to come, and we break and then we'll start with the adventures of Special Agent Black Socks. So again, if you've been tuning in the whole way through, big thanks, and chat to you in a few weeks.